Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Destination Retirement with Robert Kuhn.
Time to get on board with Robert Kuhn from Kuhn Capital Partners. Retirement is a destination you've spent decades saving for. And what you do with those savings can make all the difference in the life you live once you get there. Income planning, wealth planning, tax planning. Destination Retirement with Robert Kuhn starts right now.
Welcome to listening to Destination Retirement. My name is Robert Kuhn. I am the host of this radio show. Thank you for joining us. First weekend in May. We love the first weekend in May for a lot of reasons, but I want to thank you for joining us, whether you're catching us on Saturday or Sunday. Hopefully, if this is your first time, well, hopefully it's not your first time listening, but if it is, welcome. I think you're going to find that education is the difference maker in our radio show versus every other radio show that is on these stations on the weekend. Our job is not to just simply pitch you a product. We're on a mission to take clients from advisors that just do basic stuff, asset allocated models, still using fixed income as a means of diversification. Working with an advisor is not a lifelong contract. So if you'd like to have a conversation, let's certainly set that up. You can call Paige or Jenny at 630-492-1912, 630-492-1912. A lot to get to, obviously, this week with the market, and banknotes, obviously, are a core component of what we do. It's probably the main reason individuals reach out to us. They're not new. They're not cutting edge. It's just most advisors that advise on or advise clients that have $500,000 to $10 million, don't incorporate them. Why? It's a lot of work, a lot of legwork on our part, a ton of legwork on our part. And advisors that are mid to late career, they're not going to do things that incorporate or really pick up their workload. So we do. Recently, as you know, we did the 15.45 JP Morgan. So as a reminder, you're going to get, that one at 15.45 from JP Morgan was a 1.28% monthly coupon payment as long as the markets did not drop 30%. So as long as the markets, the indexes rather, that the note was following were not down 30%, you got your 1.28%. So we are reimagining fixed income. It's something that you're going to hear a whole lot about because I see far too many people losing money in their safe money. Fixed income strategies have been the stabilizer of most portfolios in this interest rate environment, and for the foreseeable future, we don't believe that's going to be the case. So why risk it? So when we can get double-digit returns with 30% downside, I encourage you to reach out to us. So 15.45 was the JP Morgan one. BNP, we just recently priced last week. I think it was 13 and change. I can't remember exactly. I think it was at least 13 and a half. Again, same index strategy. As long as the indexes aren't down 30%, you're getting your monthly coupon payment. So we have to reimagine fixed income. So 630-492-1912. Also having a lot of conversations given tax time. Individuals are starting to wonder how they can reduce their taxable income. I cannot stress enough that if you're with a big bank or a big brokerage firm, the tax strategies that you have access to that they're going to provide to you, even if you're with the private wealth management side of the bank or the brokerage firm, which is generally $10 million of investable assets or more, they're not cutting edge. They are absolutely positively not cutting edge. And we are bringing you cutting edge tax reduction strategies that can reduce your taxable income, active or passive, by $70,000 to $90,000 per every $100,000 invested, and that is in the energy space. So think about it. If you sold a business, a building, you're a high wage earner, and you just want to put $100,000 in, for example, not only are you going to get targeted double distributions of double digits paid quarterly as those distributions come in, or the cash flow, the revenue comes in, but you're going to be able to reduce your taxable income by $70,000 to $90,000 on average per $100,000 invested. We need to have a conversation on that, especially in this market, especially if we're going to be in a low growth market with high inflation. I want to make sure that people understand what stagflation is. Again, stagflation, to meet the definition, is no growth, but does it really matter if it's low growth and high inflation? What's your net return? That's my biggest concern. Tax strategies, the banknote strategies, equity strategies that are actively managed based upon mathematics. This is all very, very important stuff. So 630-492-1912. Roth conversions. If you are soon to be retired, or you are retired and haven't started taking out your RMDs yet, you have a window to reduce what you may or may not fully understand. If you have a larger IRA, just how big those distributions are going to be when you hit RMD age. They could easily put you into the highest tax bracket if you have a meaningful IRA. And so we have to show you on paper through our financial planning process just how we can mitigate that. I've seen IRAs that are, seven-figure IRAs that are going to, have to take out $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 a year in RMDs, and we have to talk about how to mitigate that. The Roth tool, conceptually, everybody should understand what a Roth is. It's very basic, but what I have found is the more money you have, the more you can actually take advantage of the Roth conversions. One of the biggest sticking points is, well, I don't want to pay that additional tax in the year that we convert. Well, I have news for you. What if we had a strategy that could actually reduce that taxable income from the conversion? We do, and you need to hear about it, especially if you have an IRA that's north of $500,000 to really $10 million. And the more you have, the greater the impact it's going to be. So 630-492-1912. We need to really, really have that conversation. I just don't think the Roth is utilized enough. And when you look at a wealth transfer, there's nothing better than a Roth. I mean, that money can go to future heirs if you don't want to spend every penny of it tax-free, and they can own that and let that grow for 10 years tax-free, and then take all of the income out, or all of those that portfolio value tax-free. So you have to, advisors haven't done a good enough job of explaining it. Why? We know this because people that reach out to us. And when you look at our financial planning software, again, it costs you nothing, absolutely nothing, other than 15 to 20 minutes of your time. And why do we invest in that and not charge you? It's because that is just the very tip of the iceberg to show you just how in-depth our financial planning process is. We can take a look at we run out income plan stage 95. So we can look at from now, however old you are, to 95, and really do some planning on what your RMDs are actually going to be. And then we can show you some very basic numbers as far as how much you could actually transfer to future generations if you do not want to spend every penny of your assets. Again, I cannot stress enough how important the Roth is. 630-492-1912, 630-492-1912. I think there are obstacles to a new bull market. I do believe that we are facing things that we may, and challenges that we may experience and be with us for an extended period of time. And for those individuals that are working with advisors that are still talking about market averages, we have news for you. Market averages, unless you have 100 years worth of time, are very deceiving. And that is what Wall Street does. That is what the bulk of advisors do. They lean on market averages because their performance is so poor, especially in the fixed income side. You look at most 10-year bond funds. Most 10-year bond funds are going to return under 2% a year. That's not my numbers. Pick your favorite 10-year bond fund. Pick your favorite anything in the bond space. And the returns historically for 10 years, you're annualizing under 2%. If you own longer dated bond funds and you're trying to chase yield because yields just have not been very, very good, there's a chance that you could be negative. I mean, think about that, negative. And so I just can't stress enough the urgency, the need, and just the simplicity of the banknotes. They are absolutely the simplest. I can't say the simplest product or investment because there's always simpler investments out there, but they're just not cutting edge. They're just generally family office, private wealth, private bank type strategies. And now with the minimums only being $1,000, they really truly should be, at least in my belief, in most portfolios, double-digit, annual interest payments paid monthly as long as the indexes aren't down 30%. So think about that in the market. If the markets don't grow, let's say that, because, market forecasting is just opinions, and you know what they say about opinions, nobody knows. But think about if we have low growth, high inflation or higher inflation, and we're, in a lower growth environment. Think about having something in your portfolio that can still give you 11, 12, 13, 14% annual as long as the indexes are not down 30%. So we have some webinars, really basic webinars, 10-minute webinars that you can watch on that because it is going to be new to you. There's no doubt about that. But new doesn't mean that they're not very basic. New doesn't mean that it's not a massive space. $200 billion a year goes into these types of assets. So 630-492-1912 if you want to certainly, educate yourself and watch or look at what they are and what they're not. So I think tariff-related volatility, it certainly has eased somewhat, at least as of right now. But as I mentioned, what my biggest concerns are is stagflation and U.S. debt concerns. And I think that, we're so conditioned to just the market immediately running back up 20%, 30% because, basically the market has, really done that since, 2008, other than a couple blips, of course. But a new bull run may still be out of reach. And I, look at what's going on in the market, and I just have a lot of concerns. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about market volatility. We're going to talk about just a whole bunch on this show. So I want to thank everybody for listening. Again, first weekend in May, we're really happy to be with you. Give us a call, 630-492-1912, 630-492-1912. More after the break.
Planning for retirement is kind of like planning for the trip of a lifetime. First, you save and plan every detail. Then comes the day you've looked forward to for so long. Preparation is the foundation for successful travel and retirement. At Kuhn Capital Partners, we believe that foundation is a financially secure and tax-efficient plan that seeks to protect your needs now while looking to the future. Reach out to Robert Kuhn at 630-492-1912 and visit our website, kuhncp.com.
Back. You're listening to Destination Retirement. My name is Robert Kuhn. I am the president and founder of Kuhn Capital Partners. We're independent. We're a fiduciary. We custody all of our clients' assets at Charles Schwab. And so if you have heard of Charles Schwab, if you work with our firm, all your accounts are at Charles Schwab. That's what's needed as independent fiduciaries. You have to have a custodian. Generally, Charles Schwab and Fidelity are our largest two. There's not another single radio show that you're going to listen to on this station that has the offerings that we have. Most of them are selling annuities. That is it. If you want an annuity, those pay great commission. They're going to pay generally 6 to 10% commission to the advisors. What we're doing is not rocket science. I can tell you that. But it is very unique. So if you want to have that conversation, 630-492-1912, 630-492-1912. Let's start that call and get on our calendar. And the initial conversation is just really a short get to know you. Why are you reaching out? What are you missing? What do you like? What are your concerns? Do you want to learn about tax reduction? Do you want to learn about being able to make money, even if the markets are down to a point. Again, the banknotes, double-digit returns as long as the indexes aren't down 30%. Minimums are only $1,000. Goodness, it's just, again, we harp on it over and over and over again, and there's so much interest in it that we've created a webinar series that goes over it. So we try to keep the webinars, well, they are very educational, but we try to keep them, 10 to 15 minutes so you can watch them, you can listen to them, you can rewatch them. But this is such a basic strategy, but it has the biggest impact in people's lives, especially if we're in a low growth period, that I strongly encourage you to call in, get that link to the webinar series on the banknotes and give it a watch, 630-492-1912. So we were talking about stagflation and some of my concerns. People don't understand that the markets can stay down to sideways for an extended period of time. If you're working with an advisor that is dated, one of the greatest ways to know if you're working with an advisor that is using stale strategies, old strategies, and not cutting-edge strategies is they really rely upon market averages. They tell you over the long term, the markets do this. You don't need to worry about it. I don't think anybody debates that the markets go up over time. It's simple math. Just look at the chart of the market. That is not a question. But my question is to you, what do you have in your portfolio that will deliver when you need it most? Stagflation, low growth, high inflation environment, or massive volatility? Both of which I think that most individuals can expect that to be kind of the case. And so when an advisor, and again, one of the greatest questions that you can ask an advisor, whoever you're working with, or if you're managing the money on your own, you need to ask yourself this question. What do I have in my portfolio that can deliver even if the markets are down? That is what you have to ask yourself. That is what you need to get an answer from the advisor. If they can't tell you that, if they give you the song and dance of diversification, blah, 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 then you don't have it. You don't have anything in your portfolio that is what we call predefined, strategies that you know what the rules of the road are going into it. Think about it, i.e. the banknotes. Last one we did, 15.4. Well, the last one we did was BNP. It was 13.5%. And you get that as long as the indexes that note is tracking are not down 30%. So talk about cash flow. Talk about monthly cash flow. That one was a little over 1% a month, and you had 30% downside protection before you didn't get that. Talk about, those are the types of strategies. It's the single greatest question that you can ask somebody. So when I look at the obstacles to just a new bull market, those are the things that we have to talk about. I'm very worried. The Treasury certainly, when we look at what they have done, they have given us reassurances on trade. They've given us reassurances that the Fed is independent, and they may have actually forestalled a deeper bear market in April. But investor anxiety remains high, and stagflation is still a risk that could squeeze corporate profitability. It can weigh on stocks and bonds alike, and then it can certainly weigh on your balance sheet. And that is the job of an advisor. The job of an advisor is to still deliver even if the markets aren't up 15, 20, 30, 40%. That is what we need to do. That is what a good advisory firm does. And I think that's why so many people reach out to us, is because we can talk about those tax reduction strategies. We can talk about reducing your active or passive income in a way that most advisors can't. We can talk about, doing Roth conversions where you think you make so much money and it doesn't make sense. Well, if you make that much money, chances are generally you're going to have a multiple seven-figure IRA. Let's talk about the taxes due when you have to start taking RMDs. Now is the time that you have to plan for this. It's not when the RMDs are needed. You need a good 5 to 7 year runway to really start to plan for this. If you are taking RMDs and you're looking for ways to reduce the taxes on those RMDs, those are the conversations that we can also have. Again, we have a fund, an energy fund. Energy allows, at least in the tax code today, for significant tax benefits. Now, I always preface everything tax related as this is for informational purposes only. We cannot provide tax advice. Best practice, always reach out to a tax professional. That being said, these are very simple tax strategies that have been in the code forever. So if you're taking RMDs and you're looking to defer the taxable income, if you have to take $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 a year in RMDs, which many people will, I'm just absolutely amazed that the conventional wisdom on Roth conversions is still, well, I'm going to be in a lower tax bracket. Well, maybe or maybe not. I mean, you have a seven-figure IRA, and that grows at just any basic growth rate. You're going to take out RMDs that may put you in the highest tax bracket. So those are the things that we have to talk about. Those are the conversations that when we talk about financial planning, those are the conversations that we're having. In our opinion, a financial plan, most advisors are just going to use that Monte Carlo analysis and let you know whether you're going to run out of money or not. Most people intuitively know if they're going to run out of money or not. I mean, that certainly is part of the plan, no doubt about it. However, the real meat and potatoes of the plan is talking about tax reduction, talking about minimizing taxes, talking about being able to provide next generation, if you don't spend all of your money, strategies that they can then let grow 10 years tax-free and then take all of that money out tax-free, pay zero tax on those gains. Those are the conversations that we want to have. Now, we're here to just give you the data. We'll debate it. We'll talk about it. Ultimately, obviously, the decisions are always up to you. But when we just continuously see just some crazy things happen in the market, it's no wonder that so many people want to at least have a conversation. And that's what we like to do. I mean, that's our job. We love having conversations with individuals, especially all individuals. But if you're not having those conversations with the advisors that you're working with, those are the conversations that we need to really start having. So 630-492-1912, 630-492-1912. We talk a lot about the debt. I think the debt personally is unsustainable. I mean, that is a very, very big concern, especially with interest rates, doing what they are doing. And then, of course, the White House talks about key trading partners and how, that could be a potential disappointment. One day we have a deal, the next day we don't have a deal. Tariffs are this, tariffs are that. This is all above my pay grade. And I understand conceptually, tariffs, of course, I mean, that's, most advisors, most individuals can understand that. But how this all ends up is what is outside of my pay grade, because so much of this market is a tweet-driven market, and it's a concern. And when we look at housing, that's one thing that I want to talk an awful lot about. We have a lot of investors that have invested in real estate, a ton of investors that have invested in real estate. And I don't think people fully understand what's happening in the housing market right now. When you look at, just take Florida, for example, it has 177,000 listings, highest level on record. Entire Northeast has $79,000 listing, the lowest on record. So what we're starting to see is, are people leaving Florida and moving back north? Is that a structural change that'll last for years and cause the Florida housing market to decline over an extended period of time? There's a lot of concerns out there, and there are a lot of investors that understand and invest in real estate for cash flow. Is that really going to produce the cash flow ultimately that it has? And that's the problem with this industry, is that individual advisors, individual investors, they look at what did well for the last 5 years, 10 years, and they think that's going to do well for the next 5 to 10 years. And it may, but that just can't be the case, because the odds of a recession, they are surging. Again, not the end of the world if you're positioned correctly. Do you have banknotes? Do you have strategies that can deliver double-digit returns as long as those indexes aren't down 30%? I can't tell you how reassuring and comforting that is to investors to know that, I have 30% downside protection before I have to not get paid a coupon payment, an interest payment, a monthly interest payment. And we're not talking pennies here. I mean, these banknotes are paying, 13, 14, 15%, 12%. So I strongly encourage you, call us, get the link to the webinar series and watch them. Decide for your own, on your own if they make sense. 630-492-1912, 1912, because the odds of a recession are high, and we're going to talk about that after the break. So you're listening to Destination Retirement. My name is Robert Kuhn. Thank you. It is the first weekend in May. Hopefully everybody's ready for spring. I know we are. So if you'd like to have a conversation, if you'd like to talk about tax reduction, certainty, or including certainty or a level of certainty in your portfolio, give us a call, 630-492-1912. More after the break. Welcome back. You're listening to Destination Retirement. My name is Robert Kuhn, Kuhn Capital Partners, president and founder of Kuhn Capital Partners. We're independent. We're a fiduciary. Clients that work with us, they custody, meaning they open accounts at either Charles Schwab or Fidelity. You can actually add us to those accounts, and you can then incorporate our strategies, our financial planning, all of our risk mitigation strategies, our banknotes, our predetermined strategies, our tax reduction strategies. Let's have a conversation. So 630-492-1912. Set that up, 630-492-1912. Even if you have $10 million or more, you do not have the most cutting-edge strategies when it comes to tax reduction. You don't want to talk to us? Get access to the webinar series. Then decide if it is worth having a conversation for us. I believe it will be, but you can certainly get access to those webinars by reaching out 630-492-1912, 630-492-1912. So we're talking about the odds of a recession. Many people are saying a global recession is coming. Worldwide economic slump could set in by summer unless something changes direction. You may have seen what Jamie Dimon, the leader of J.P. Morgan, had said. Most people, when Jamie Dimon talks, most people listen. He told investors that last week that the best case outcome is now a recession in the United States. I don't know what that means. That was per Wall Street Journal. I don't know if he was, taken out of context. If I read that at face value, that worries me. If the best case is a recession, what does that mean the base case or the worst case is? That's a very alarming and concerning statement. And I always try to bring all of this back to you, the individual investor, the $500,000 investor to $10 million, $15 million investor, and how can we prevent you from losing money? How can we prevent you from having unnecessary volatility? How can we prevent you from paying more income tax than you should? Because, the tax code is what the tax code is. And if you look at the energy space, there are some significant tax benefits. And unless you invest in energy, unless you are in an energy state, which certainly we're not here in Illinois, generally speaking, you don't have a full understanding of just how impactful those energy tax benefits can be. Now, again, we're not tax professionals. We don't provide tax advice. This is all just education on what comes along with investing in energy. Best practice, always talk to whoever prepares your taxes. That's just a best practice. We always want to make sure that you're doing that. But when we can have strategies that can reduce your taxable income by on average, again, averages mean, on one side, when we talk about markets, I hate averages, of course. It's a good gauge. It's not even a good gauge. It's just taken out of context. But averages on the market side is, generally 50 to 100 year time horizon. Well, I'm not sure you have 50 to 100 years. My 12-year-old doesn't have, hopefully she has 100 years. That would be awesome. But you get the point. But when it comes to averages on the energy strategy, we have to lean on averages. And on average, generally speaking, you're going to get $70,000 to $90,000 tax benefit for every $100,000 that you invest in our fund. Think about that. Active income or passive income. Put $100,000 in. Well, let's just say in 2023, had you did that, you would have reduced your taxable income by almost $90,000. Put $1 million in, almost $900,000. So those are the strategies that we're talking about. And why is that? Because investing is always long term. We don't debate it. Nobody debates it. Everybody should understand that investing is long term. That's the problem with the industry. That's the problem with advisors is they don't have predefined strategies that can really look at your full lifetime, your full life expectancy, and really talk about, hey, how can we reduce the lifetime taxable income that you're going to have to pay through using or by using energy strategies, Roth conversions, etc. How can we, most people don't understand, their eyes light up when we're in the meeting, we're on a Zoom or whatever, we're in a dinner, and we say, listen, the Roth strategy, a Roth IRA, in our opinion, is the greatest wealth transfer asset available. So if you don't want to spend every penny, do you realize future generations can let that money grow 10 years without paying taxes and then take that money out tax-free? Compare that to what you're doing currently. Compare that to the taxes that they're going to have to pay if they have an inherited IRA. I mean, this is what the financial planning does. These are the things that we're showing clients, and their eyes light up. So investing is long-term, always. But out of the last 74 years, from 1950 to 2024, the S&P has only been negative 16 times. It's only 16 times. But does that mean that you should lose money when the S&P is negative? Does that mean that it's okay for the advisory firm that you're working with? I don't care if they manage $1 billion, $10 billion, $100 billion, $1 trillion, gazillion dollars, and they're in the best office in the world. They've got the best this, the best that. Does that mean that you should not have strategies in place in your portfolio that can't handle or still make money even in the negative market? I mean, so yes, investing is long term. It always has been long term. We're not trying to time the market day in and day out, but does that mean in 2000, when the market is down 9, the S&P is down 9%. 2001, the S&P is down 11. 2002, the S&P is down 21.97. 2008, the S&P is down 36.55. 2018, the S&P is down 4.23. 2022, the S&P is down 18.04. Okay. You probably still have a whole lot more money than what you have, even going through those negative periods. But what if you had a strategy that could protect principal in those down markets or even make money in those down markets? Now look at the value of your statements. Now look at the value that we as an advisory firm are bringing to the table. And guess what? Those strategies exist. It's all about education. And my job when I, decided to do the radio, we're out there trying to, just shake up status quo. The industry, in my opinion, is broken. The financial industry, in my opinion, is broken. The financial industry, in my opinion, is broken. It is certainly beneficial to us to just do an asset allocated strategy, charge you a fee, and then go on about our day and raise more money. And then our income continues to go up and to the right. That is what a business, right? What a business to be able to just explain away losses, not have anything inside your portfolio that can do well in negative returns, and we still make money. And our income goes up and to the right, even when your portfolio goes down. And unfortunately, that's the bulk of advisors out there. It doesn't matter the firm. It doesn't matter the amount of money that they're managing. It doesn't matter how nice their offices are. That is the bulk of advisors that are out there. And yes, if you invested in 2000, if you invested in the late 90s, even going through the negatives of the dot-com, the 08 crash, 18, 22 with COVID, you still have more money. But what if? Let's talk about that. What if you had strategies that could protect principal? Again, not 100% of your money, maybe 15, maybe 20, maybe 30. Who knows what the percentage of your portfolio is? But what if you had strategies that had no opportunity for loss, that were tied to the S&P? What if you had strategies like the banknotes that, as long as the indexes aren't down 30%, you still are making double digits? Generally speaking, 12 to 14% is what the banknotes are. Well, now what's that value of the portfolio? Now we're having those fun conversations of, you know what? Your IRA is so high, is so big, has grown so much that we need to talk about Roth conversions. We need to talk about strategies that can reduce your taxable income when you do those Roth conversions. Go show me another advisor. Seriously, pick up your phone, call your advisory firm and say, hey, I want to do a Roth conversion. I don't care what you think. I want to convert the Roth, invested in something invest some of my money in something that can negate some or all of that additional income from that conversion. And they're probably going to tell you, well, it doesn't exist, because most advisors don't have access to energy strategies, institutional private equity-esque energy strategies. We do. That is such a competitive advantage that I don't talk enough about on the radio. And I have to change that. I have to absolutely change that. And it may only be 5% of your portfolio, maybe 10%, maybe 15%, whatever, maybe nothing, who knows? But those are the questions that you have to ask. If I were to convert to an IRA, can you lay out my lifetime income tax when I get to RMD age that I am going to have to pay? We've seen it. 7-figure IRA, multiple 7-figure IRA, $500,000 IRA, and you have 5 years, 7 years, 10 years left to RMDs, and we run out those RMDs to age 95, there's a good chance that you're paying $2 to $3 million in lifetime income tax to the government. And you're going to pass an asset that is the least, I don't know if it's the least, but it is certainly not as tax efficient as a Roth IRA to the next generation. Those are the things that we can do for you. Those are the things that don't cost you a penny, that we can spend 15, 20 minutes, capture some information, set up another Zoom, come into the office, that we are running out to age literally 95, and we're talking about the lifetime tax that you're going to have to pay, and with just some basic planning. Basic planning. Everybody conceptually thinks the more money you have, well, the Roths don't work for me. Now, actually, you're the exact candidate that the Roths can work for you if you have strategies that can negate some of that conversion income that you're going to have. And the sweet spot really is a handful of years to retirement, into retirement, up to when you're forced to take out those RMDs. 630-492-1912, 630-492-1912. And if you are taking RMDs currently, most people, that's an additional tax you're going to have to pay. Let's talk about a place for those assets that can give you cash flow that can reduce the income tax that you're going to be required to pay from taking that RMD out. So 630-492-1912. Let's have that conversation. 630-492-1912. More after the break.
Retirement looks different for everyone. Will you be sitting on your porch taking in the view, or will your porch be disappearing in the rearview mirror? Whatever your retirement dream, making it a reality starts with a plan. Robert Kuhn at Kuhn Capital Partners can help you create a financially secure and tax-efficient plan that is tailored to you. After all, you deserve to live your dream. Call 630-492-1912 and start planning for tomorrow and every day after. 630-492-1912 and visit us online at KuhnCP.com.
You're listening to Destination Retirement. My name is Robert Kuhn, president and founder of Kuhn Capital Partners. Yes, we are a fiduciary. Yes, we're independent. We're a registered investment advisory firm. All of our clients will generally have accounts either at Charles Schwab or Fidelity, the custodian of your choice. And we are simply the advisors on the account. And you can hire us, fire us very, very easily. This is your money. And money moves around all the time in this industry. So don't let that relationship with the advisor hold you up from making a change. Now, the banks, the brokerage firms know this. They know that. That's why they try to get your checking. That's why they try to get your mortgage. That's why they try to get your credit card usage. That's why they try to get the liability side of your balance sheet. They know that. So you're not actually losing anything. Call your advisor if you're working with or you have your money managed at a bank or a big brokerage firm, and ask them, hey, do you have a strategy that can reduce my taxable income $70,000 to $90,000 per every 100,000 invested that's in the energy space, active or passive, and just see what they say. They're going to say no. So 630-492-1912, 630-492-1912 if you want to get on our calendar. And that's another thing that just irks me. The majority of advisors are not investing their personal money the way that they're investing client money, the way that they're advising you, your life savings, to be invested. Because very few, anecdotally, I don't, there's nowhere to look at this for sure. It's just, the relationships that I've have had over 27 to 30 years of being in the business. Generally speaking, almost every advisor I know invests their personal money differently than the way that they advise clients to invest. Doesn't that surprise you? They may have bits and pieces of the portfolio, but the real value add, the real strategies that generally can reduce taxes, can do well in down markets, or they're trading with a lot of their own money. They're not doing that for clients, and they're not doing that for clients because it's not scalable. Think about it. We're running a business, right? Every advisor is running a business. They're also looking at the revenue that book of business generates. And it is very hard to run actively managed strategies at scale. And that's why, generally speaking, how they're investing the bulk of their own money is different than the basic asset allocated, plain Jane way that they're telling you to invest your money. And that's an issue. It's a huge issue in the industry. Everybody wants to talk about fees. Forget fees. That's the last thing that I look at when I'm looking at an investment. I truly couldn't care less about the fees. I'm focused on after fee return. That's what matters to me most. Now, we'll obviously vet fees and we'll look at it and make sure there's value there. But that's what Wall Street has conditioned individuals to think about. That's wrong. I mean, that is absolutely wrong, in my opinion. We hear it over and over again. I'm paying 0.5%. I'm paying 1%. And I wouldn't pay anything to just have a portfolio that tracked the market up and down that 99% of advisors are bringing to the table. I mean, it may be dressed up a little sexier than just the index funds, but it is basically an index type strategy. It is what we call a closet index fund that's just going to track the market up, track the market down. I mean, that's it. I wouldn't pay a penny for that. That's why most advisors don't talk about performance, because right out of the gate, they're going to underperform. Because if you have a strategy that's index-based in nature or tracks the market up and down, again, we see a big firm manages 50, 60, 70 billion. They always talk about, how they hate annuities and this and that. And if you have $500,000, come and work with us. And as you make money, we make money, blah, blah, blah. Look at their performance. Track their performance in their correlation to the S&P 500. Or we'll do it for you because we can do it. It's simply done. And then when you tack a fee onto that, and you're going to underperform. You are going to underperform. And that's why so many advisors are not talking about performance. They don't have those strategies inside the portfolio like the bank notes that can give you double-digit returns as long as the indexes aren't down 30%. Well, that's a pretty darn good story, right? Think about that, 30% protection. They don't have strategies that can greatly reduce your taxable income, on average, $70,000 to $90,000 per $100,000 invested, active or passive. Real estate's a struggle right now. Cap rates, cash flows, free cash flows of properties. It's a challenge. It is a challenge. And we have a lot of real estate investors that are looking for strategies to diversify away from their real estate holdings. In the energy space, our energy strategy is unique as it's absolutely, it's not new. Again, it's not new. It's just you don't need to write a $5 million check to get access to a private equity strategy. Our minimum investment is $100,000, and you're going to get ridiculous tax benefits, and you're going to get targeted double distributions in the mid to high, teens. Those are the strategies that we're talking about. So if you have a 1031 that you're looking to place and you can't find a like property that you like, let's have a conversation. Let's talk about a home for that money. 630-492-1912, 630-492-1912. Because again, coming up on the end of this show here for the first weekend in May 2025, it's all about growth, right? Investing the markets generally always go up over time. That is not a question. They've only been down 16 times since the 50s. 16 times has the S&P been negative since 1950. That's it. That makes you think, I'm not going to worry about losing 20%. I'm not going to worry about losing 10%. I don't really care if we're going to lose 30% because the market's going to come back. You can't time it. You can't do anything. You may not be able to time it day in, day out, but you can certainly add strategies that can deliver positive returns in those negative markets. Because if you look at how long does it take to double your money, it's really simple. The rule of 72. It's a classic shortcut that estimates how long it'll take you to double your investment. Very, very simple. Very, very simple. 72 divided by the annual rate of return will give you the number of years to double your money. If you're making 2% a year, you're looking at 35%. You make 7% a year, you're looking at 10.2. You make 13%, you're going to double your money every 5.7. You make 20% a year, you're going to double your money 3.8 years. So you have to look at, well, what affects that? What hurts compounding? Well, it's portfolio losses. And portfolio losses are your nemesis. And I see far too many advisors just telling individuals, again, $500,000, $10 million, $20 million of investable assets, they're still telling you the same thing. Don't worry about it. It's ultimately going to come back. Well, my question to you would be, Mr. or Mrs. Advisor, why didn't I have 25% of my money that I knew was predefined, that I knew that was backed by one of the largest financial institutions, all the big banks, JP Morgan, Citi, Bank of America, Morgan Stanley, UBS, et cetera, BMO, that had 30% downside protection, so those indexes didn't drop 30%. For me to make 1% a month, 1.5% a month, whatever that number is, that is the answer to that, or the question that you ask. And if they can't answer that, if they can't provide you with a reasonable explanation why they didn't have a conversation to you about what the banknotes are, what they're not, have a conversation with you about what principal protection strategies are out there that can, protect growth, that your worst year is 0, but yet are still tied to the S&P, and currently you get the first 10% of the S&P, or have conversations with you why your equity strategies don't have the ability to go to cash to mitigate the market volatility. I've seen it. I've heard it. Well, to go to cash, you got to be right twice. Going in, going out. Going in, going back, coming back. Going out, going back in. I mean, come on. I mean, do you think advisors sit and just, take it with their own money? Do you think they really just sit and say, I'm not going to worry about 20%. I don't have any hedges in my portfolio? Well, if they do, that's not the advisor you want to work with. So we're shining the light on these little things that are going to hopefully allow you to, even though the market's only dropped or have been negative 16 times since 1950. So yes, your portfolio is still significantly higher. What if we could have made it higher? What if we could have reduced the stress? What if we are now having to have conversations that we call high-class conversations about the money that you want to leave to future generations? How can we do it as tax efficiently as possible? Most individuals do not understand a Roth IRA, that it'll go to future generations, that it can grow 10 years tax-free, and they can take that money out all tax-free and not pay any taxes on it. Why haven't you had a conversation? Why hasn't your advisor mapped out the taxes that, yes, you may pay a little bit more in taxes up front, but it's going to give you more money. So if you want to spend every penny with some assumed growth rates, it's going to be beneficial to you. And then I don't think there's a better inheritance strategy than the Roth currently. And then you tack on top of that strategies like our energy strategy that can reduce the taxable income during the year. You do the conversion if you invest some taxable dollars in the energy strategy. All of a sudden, I think you can see the value that we're bringing to the table. All of a sudden, when you bring and match the financial planning along with the cutting edge strategies that we're bringing to the table, I think you start to see why we're bringing in the amount of money that we bring in, why we get the interest that we do. It doesn't. I'm not doing it to brag. I'm not doing it to pound my chest. I mean, all that means is we're helping people. We're helping more people, and that, at the end of the day, is everything that we want. So 630-492-1912, 630-492-1912. Set that initial call up. Look forward to being with you again next week. Have a great week.
This recording is for informational purposes only and should not be considered investment advice. Kuhn Capital Partners does not provide legal, accounting, or tax advice. Any statement regarding such matters is explanatory and may not be relied upon as definitive advice. Opinions expressed are current as of the date of this recording, and such opinions are subject to change. The views and opinions of guests on this program are not necessarily those of Kuhn Capital Partners. Any reference to guarantees, principal or income, protection, buffers, or defined outcome investments are generally structured notes or fixed insurance products backed by the claims-paying ability of the offering company and are not insured by any government agency. Kuhn Capital Partners is not affiliated with any guest unless otherwise stated and does not guarantee the accuracy or the completeness of any data presented. Kuhn Capital Partners and its affiliates are not responsible for any trading decisions, damages, or other losses resulting from or related to the information, data analysis, or opinions in this recording. Past performance is not a guarantee of future results. All investments are subject to investment risk, including but not limited to the potential loss of principal. Advisory services are offered through Kuhn Capital Partners, LLC, a registered investment advisor.